I think these partnerships are just such a great strategy that people should be looking into. And they don't have to be wine partnerships. There's nothing wrong with wine partnerships, but like if you're talking about engaging new consumers or opening up new occasions for drinking wine, like let's go outside. Welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. In this show, we'll break down the complexities of selling wine in the US by discussing the relevant issues of today with experts from around the globe. Each episode serves up 3 key insights to help elevate your winery's presence in the US market. So grab a pen and paper and let's pave the way for your success in the US.
Hello, welcome to Masterclass US Wine Market. Today I'm here with my co-host Barbara to recap the 2024 year. Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me here, Juliana. And thank you to everybody for listening. What a year it's been.
Oh, yeah, quite a year.
Yeah. Well, our format today will be a little different since it's the two of us talking to each other. So we'll recap this past year with our guests and use our guest interviews to talk about kind of where we've been in this past wild and crazy year and where we're headed in 2025.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's been quite a year, so we're excited to recap. And it's been great having Barbara come on as well. And this episode, really, our 3 key takeaways are going to be number 1, what were some of the most impactful conversations in 2024 for both of us? Number 2, what are some of the greatest industry challenges? And we're facing a lot, but some of the greatest industry challenges of 2024 that we've tried to address with this podcast. And finally, what do we have in store for the first part of 2025 and what comes next? Um, so, yeah,
Yeah,
excited to talk.
I know. Yeah, let's dive right in. So, Juliana, I'll ask you first since you're the OG host, but is there a particular conversation or conversations that really stuck with you this year?
Yeah, there were so many great conversations, and thanks for that question. I think that what really stood out to me was an interview I did back in January or early February with NRA Chiola from Mia Netto about the launch of Mia Netto Zero. And then later in the year, around the summertime, an interview I did with Master Sommelier Bobby Stuckey about the intersection of wine and health and fitness. And obviously, both of those episodes are quite related. Also, had a fantastic conversation with Beck Hopkins of A Balanced Glass, again, about that dynamic of wine and health. And for me, those conversations were really impactful and really important because of so many of the challenges and headwinds we're facing as a wine industry, as it's related to declining consumption, as it relates to people taking their health into account in different ways, and for that reason, pulling back on alcohol, and the proliferation of alcohol alternatives. You know, we look at a zero alcohol Prosecco like Mio Netto, but also outside of the wine space, you know, cannabis and other things that people are indulging in, RTDs and spirits, of course. So those conversations to me were impactful because they highlighted, of course, the challenges as an industry we face when it comes to these topics, but I think they were all really positive, and they also all offered tangible ideas and ways in which we, as an industry and as a wine industry, can navigate these headwinds, but also work with them. Like, for example, look at Bobby. He's a master som. He compared studying for the master som exam to training for a marathon. I love that. And he talked about how he's always incorporated running into his career as a som. And, you know, as someone who's gotten into running recently myself, that really struck a chord for me. And then I remember something really important that NRA said about, you know, non-alcoholic wine is not here to take market share away from alcoholic wine. They are on the same table. And I wholeheartedly agree, because you have a table of 10 people and maybe there's one person who's pregnant and cannot drink or cannot drink for another reason. And you've got your non-alc Mio Netto or you've got your alcoholic version right on the same table. So I really appreciated those conversations because they talked about things and headwinds that we're facing, but in a way that was pragmatic and also really spoke to some of the ways in which we as an industry can tackle these challenges head on.
Yeah, definitely. I listened to those conversations and I really appreciated, especially Bobby talking about how kind of healthy lifestyle and wine coexist. They're not independent of each other. You're not sacrificing one for the other, and how you can very much kind of live a life of moderation and still have a great time with wine.
Exactly, precisely. And Barbara, you joined midway through the year, and it's been so great to have you on board as a co-host. So thank you for joining me. And I love our East-West Coast dynamic with you here in New York and you out in California. But, same question to you. What really intrigued and excited you about the guests that you've had on the show since you joined?
Well, first, I want to back up really quickly and say thank you again, Juliana and Stevie, for giving me this opportunity, because podcasts are really one of my favorite ways to learn. And as you know, I was an avid listener before joining you as a co-host, so I'm still really pinching myself that I'm now part of a show that's been such a valuable tool for me.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
But yeah, I think most of us in the industry are having conversations about all of these things, the headwinds, the successes too, all the time. And so, I'm just excited to have the ear of some amazing experts to ask them the questions that I feel are really relevant for the moment. So I'm kind of really lucky as a consultant that I work with more than one brand or even one portfolio, to really hear, like, anecdotally, but also to see through their data, like, where are wine brands really struggling the most right now. And so that's kind of what drove the conversations that I had, and the guests that I spoke with. But I guess specifically, I can call out some, I felt it was really important to talk about generational marketing, which I did with former Italian Wine podcast host and also leading marketing expert Polly Hammond. So there's so much stress around younger generations right now, and what they're doing with wine, which kind of, to me, begged the question, like, is someone's age enough of a segmentation to invite them into the category? So Polly was really insightful about giving us, some answers to that. Like, should we be so focused on their age, or is there another way that we should be trying to approach these younger consumers through other avenues, through other segmentation methods? Yeah, it just so happens that they're of this age, but their interest is gonna grab them more than, the candles on their birthday cake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I also felt it was really important to look at kind of the reality of what I'll call new age distribution, kind of where the really logistics of distribution sit right now, to get a firm understanding of what distributors are capable of kind of in this day and age. And it's really different than what it was definitely, 10, 15 years ago, but even from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, as we see the consolidation of distribution brands, I thought it was really important to look how wineries can, like, kind of what they need to take into their own hands, and how they can do that. And so I talked to Ben Salisbury about that, who offered some really great insights, into how, even from afar, wineries can really be part of the wheel that spins the distribution machine.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, like, were there any notable solutions, in those conversations around how does a smaller, maybe more boutique Italian winery really tackle the beast that is a
Yeah.
327 in the US?
I thought one of the best tips that Ben gave was, definitely everything that you think about as a winery needs to be your strategies. They need to be scalable, right? Because that's how the world works now. And so we know an Italian winery can't be out here every month, but they need to be able to develop strategies that can be grown from afar. So definitely digital marketing is one of these tools, but that doesn't just mean social media anymore. And so he called out, you can almost treat your distribution teams as a marketing segment and develop content specifically for them. Like, get them on an industry mailing list where you're sending them little nuggets of digestible information frequently, so that you're not having to be out here in front of them every week telling them about who you are and why your brand is unique, but they're just kind of getting that plugged straight to them.
Right. I like that a lot. Yeah, like and more in a way that integrates with their lifestyle too, information
Yeah,
that's cool. So maybe it's a recipe guide or maybe it's a newsletter with entertainment tips, for example.
yeah.
That could be one way to get in front of them.
And kind of importance of all of those pieces together, not just one. It's like they need variety of content, just like everyone needs variety of content. So we can start almost treating the distributors like a demographic. Like, how would we want to talk to a specific demographic that we really want to be highly engaged with us?
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then I'll ask you another question. So what What would you say were some of the ways that the industry navigated the global challenges and changes in the past year, and what kind of innovative strategies have emerged as a result?
Yeah, great question. I think I spoke earlier about the challenges of around health claims and alcohol and lower consumption. So I think, one great campaign and initiative that we saw come out this year was Come Over October. And, that was led by Karen McNeil and Kimberly Charles and someone I know well, Gina Colangelo. But the three of them, I think, came together with the resources of agents, many decades of years of experience from agency, but also as Karen with her prominence in the industry to try to inspire and engage not just consumers but wineries. I think directly to really put messaging out there around how wine inspires conviviality and how wine inspires connection. And I think in an age where so many people work remotely and we've gotten more disconnected, I think that was a really impactful message and a really relevant message as well. And I think it was important too to have, let's say, a non-branded campaign, something that a lot of different brands came together around to support and
Yeah.
rally. So the response that we saw from the industry to that campaign, I think, was really proof of the fact that how necessary a campaign like that was and how important something like that was for the industry at large.
Yeah, I'll say at Wine to Wine this year in Verona, there was, actually a lot of talk. Like Gino and Robert Joseph did a whole seminar about kind of their viewpoints. Then they took very different ones to Come Over October. But even if you didn't, Robert Joseph was on the kind of devil's advocate side, and even if that was the side that you sit on, I think we can all admit at least got the conversation going. And being part of the conversation is an important way for us to figure out, okay, if you didn't think Come Over October was the way to do it, then what are you going to do about it? Like, how are you going to invite more people into the category? How are you going to remind people of the conviviality of this beverage?
Not that, how are you attracting a new generation, right? What are you doing then to bring new drinkers into the fold for a product that does, let's face it, have an older consumer largely? So, I agree with that response of like, let's be solutions minded and oriented towards the future as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think that to me was an innovative strategy that I've seen. I mean, come as a result of these challenges. I also think you see some great non-alcs coming out in the space. I think also seeing some fun co-branding campaigns where wine brands partnered with maybe not your typical expected type of partnership, but
Yeah.
something like seeing Kendall Jackson and Jackson Family Wines partner with the NBA.
Yes.
Getting wine out there into more mainstream lifestyle spaces, I think is really cool to see. And again, another great way to look at how we get wine in front of new consumers. So I also love seeing like new campaigns like that come about.
Yeah, definitely. I have that in my notes too to talk about partnerships because I love to see all of the ways that people are trying to inspire, new consumers or find new occasions for drinking wine. And definitely Kendall Jackson with the NBA or Fedati with F1. But actually, when I interviewed Michael Traverso from Wilson Daniels, he told me about a campaign that they did with Gianluca Bistol, who makes a beautiful Prosecco and Prosecco Superiore from Cartize. And they partnered with Alfa Romeo to have him drive a little sports car across the US on a press tour. And I was like, what a fun way to get more people intrigued, interested. Like, they weren't invited to a party because of Prosecco. It was kind of like this whole experience, the sports car tour. So yeah, I think these partnerships are just such a great strategy that people should be looking into. And they don't have to be wine partnerships. There's nothing wrong with wine partnerships, but like if you're talking about engaging new consumers or opening up new occasions for drinking wine, like let's go outside.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. I think those partnerships are so creative, they're fun, and capturing the excitement and interest of new consumers. So absolutely. Let's look, Barbara, maybe next, ahead, like what's coming up and what's on the horizon. And as we look towards the coming year, what are some predictions, expectations based on the interviews that you had that you might have for the wine industry?
Well, I'd already talked a little bit about thinking about those scalable strategies. So, like, whatever we have to do has to be able to have the potential to grow without needing so many, hands on it, so much manpower, because the world is getting bigger and bigger, and we are still the same size humans. So ways, yeah, so ways to be able to kind of spread the message, your very targeted message though. Just, it's not enough to just like open a social media account, as we know. It's like you have to create an experience for when somebody lands on your social media page, much the same way you create an experience for when they arrive in your tasting room, if you have one, or your retail shop. So I think that, leaning into the digital side and really putting some good thought and intention behind it. And then also I'll say, we know this is a face-to-face industry, and how many of our experts respond in the rapid fire quiz, that their best tip for mastering the US wine market is to be present in the market. But I think there needs to be strategy around that too, because what ends up happening is we have this like trade show cycle in the US, maybe that starts in like early February and goes into like April or so, with all of the great events like sucklings tastings and slow wine and all of those things. But is that the best time for like a small brand to come out here, when there's a lot of demand for attention from consumers, from distributors, from wholesalers? So, I think maybe identifying, yes, you got to be out here in the market, but be strategic about when you're here so that you can be more of the main attraction and make the most out of your dollars or your euros and your miles.
That's a really practical, great piece of advice, Barbara. Totally agree. And especially when you're the smaller producer, it's definitely going to be hard to get that mind share when everyone else is in town as well.
Yeah. How about you? What are some insights that you have, as I can't believe it's 2025 in 2 weeks, but
I
what are
know.
some of your insights for 2 weeks from now?
Gosh, when you put it that way, more like how to and getting really nitty gritty, like how do you build your out to market strategy? How do you manage a distributor at a small boutique winery? How do you, to your point, make the most of a market visit? But really practical advice. I really want, I think it's, we spend a lot of time talking in this industry and it's great to connect in that way. But I really want to give people practical advice. And I know that I think we're both doing that through these conversations, but get even a little more specific sometimes and really drill down to that really practical, useful information that can help people feel more confident, give them some inspiration and how they're approaching the market. Just give them some ways and ideas and approaches for how to tackle the headwinds that we face, but also feel like they're making an impact in their role and in their job. At the end of the day, we're still so lucky to be in such a great industry that we are, and
Yeah.
in wine, of course, specifically. But I think it's important to try to give some advice to how to think new and how to bring some energy to the industry as well.
Definitely.
So, sticking with our structure of our rapid fire quiz,
Mhm.
we will end today with our rapid fire quiz, and we'll each ask each other 3 questions to help our listeners better understand the U.S. market. So, Barbara, you can ask me first. How about that?
Sure. So, all right. What is an Italian wine trend or category you want to see continue to grow in 2025?
Good one. Well, I don't think anyone's going to be shocked to hear this if you follow me on social media, but Lambrusco. I, bias slightly, but I think Lambrusco is poised to really capture the energy we've seen behind Prosecco. It's sparkling also, and it's red sparkling, and it's fun, and sometimes it's sweet, and sometimes it's funky. So there's a whole range for a lot of different people out there, and I love Lambrusco with food. So
Yes.
I know I'm seeing a lot more Lambrusco here in cocktails in New York City menus and on bottle lists and by the glass. So I'm just hoping to see that grow across the country as well.
Yeah, I love a good Lambrusco. I think, you said like sometimes it can be funky, but I like when you think about what you're eating in Emilia-Romagna, and even if you've never been there, like bolognese, prosciutto, all these things are from Emilia-Romagna. I'm like, I can almost like taste that in the wine. It's like I know now why it's like this. It's so perfect for.
Seriously. I did an event in Philly in early November, and our chef actually took one of the Lambruscos I work with, and he put it into the beef ragu. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds outstanding. Okay, so I'll answer the same question. For me, well, I'm very partial to the south of Italy, and I love seeing the moment that Sicily is having in terms of their wines. I mean, they really, the wines across the board, of course, Etna, what a special premium region that is, but everywhere in Sicily, the frappatos, the Cerasuolos, like everything is just so kind of what I want right now, like mineral driven whites, light reds, lots of flavor without being intense. And like, I want to see more of Sicily everywhere. Viva Sicilia.
Absolutely.
Okay, so then what, in terms of the podcast, is your focus for 2025, or maybe just one focus?
Yeah, for the podcast for me in 2025, it's going to be how to's. It's going to be guides, how to tackle different parts of the market. I really want to get more deep into topics and more specific. So really, I'd say it's very instructory, if I can make up a word. Um, and yeah, just dive in like that. How about you, Barbara? What is your focus going to be for the podcast in 2025?
I love that. I think for the first, for what I'm scheduling right now, we're definitely have a really big focus on kind of the state of wholesale. We know that wholesale right now is really looking a little bleak right now in the U.S., but also, wine's not going to stop being sold tomorrow. So there's going to be ways to navigate that, and I want to talk to the people that can best help us answer those questions, like how can we navigate this challenging place and not lose our footing, because it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the challenges, but we can do this.
Yep. Fantastic. Yeah, I agree. We can. It's like you
Yes,
said, we're still lucky, incredibly lucky to be in this space, and I think the more we can have these conversations and work together, the better off we'll be.
absolutely. Okay, and just for fun, what is your favorite Italian wine to drink at the holidays?
Oh, I love bubbles, as we know. I'm not going to give the same answer as question number one. So instead, I will say Franciacorta. I think there are so many beautiful expressions of Franciacorta. It's such an underrated and underdeveloped category here in the U.S. in terms of what's
Yeah,
available. But when you can find a beautiful bottle of, whether it's Berlucchi Franciacorta, one of the classics, or some of the more boutique producers, they're just, I think, excellent, excellent wines, great value. So for me, it's always bubbles. So
yeah. Okay, well, not to sound incredibly boring. I'm also, if it sparkles, it's for me. But I'm going a little farther northeast, and I'm going to say Trento Doc. And same thing for me. Like I'm all about kind of altitude, minerality, and like those wines just have every elegant but approachable point that I love. And I'll give a really quick story. For an anniversary recently, my husband and I got a bottle of the Giulio Ferrari, the really nice one that Ferrari makes. It was in a restaurant in Puglia. It was about 200 euros, but the price to value for that, it was like, I've had, some other very, very high end champagnes, and I was like, this is everything that I want, and it's a fraction of the price. So it's like the price to value, you just cannot beat it. And also the entry level Ferrari, you can get it here in the US for like 25 bucks. And oh my God, I'm going to use a very technical term that my wine director friend likes to say, it slaps.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah. No, those wines are fantastic. That and you definitely when after I said French Accord, I was like, I could have said French Dock. So I'm glad
Now
there we go.
yes,
Both covered. Well,
yes.
fantastic, Barbara. Thank you so much again for joining me as a podcast co-host and really
Yeah,
excited to continue conversations into next year. Happy
yeah.
holidays.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me today and period. It's like I'm so honored to share this stage with you, and like you said, we're so lucky to be here doing this. Like wine people, and especially Italian wine people, make me feel so warm inside. So I just feel so lucky to be helping them and working with them.
Me too. And thank you again, Barbara. It's such an honor to have you as a co host. Thank you for bringing such a great energy, enthusiasm, organization to this show. I love it. All right, everyone.
Okay. Ciao, buon Natale.
Natale.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Masterclass US Wine Market. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the latest industry trends, remember to like, follow, and share our podcast. And if you find value in our conversations, please leave us a review to help others discover the show and grow our community. Stay tuned for new episodes every Monday. Until then, brindiamo il vostro successo.